If you experience hypervigilance, always being on watch, ready for shit to hit the fan, you struggle sometimes with sleeping or being able to relax, you're high anxiety type of person, maybe even you've been identified as like high energy, then you may have a dysregulated nervous system. Today we're going to talk about what that means, why it happens, and how you can get back into a state of regulation so you can feel more at peace, calm, and in the present moment. I'm Anna Wickham, and I help people create a radiant life through passion, purpose, and peace. And today we're going to talk about the autonomic nervous system. We are going to talk about what that nervous system is, how it affects us in our daily life, some signs that our nervous system is dysregulated, and what we can do to get back into regulation. So first, what is the nervous system? The nervous system consists of our brain, spinal cord, and nerves, and it's the communication method within our body for our brain to communicate with our body and vice versa. And its role is to keep us regulated or keep us in a state of homeostasis, of being balanced in our daily life and having the faculties that we need to just function in our day-to-day life and feel good so that we can do the actions that it takes to live our lives, take care of ourselves. Now, I'm going to focus most of this video on a dysregulated nervous system that is too high or elevated, kind of like the symptoms that I identified a little bit earlier. So if you struggle with anxiety, you feel like you're high energy and you struggle sometimes to take your energy down when you need it to come down, like say when you're trying to sleep. You may be panicky, you may have been described as jumpy, where someone taps on your shoulder and you're jumping, like you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop or you're waiting for something bad to happen. All of those are signs of a dysregulated nervous system, and this is the dysregulation that I am also prone to. I'm very prone to that high energy, and I'm also prone to anxiety, worst case scenario thinking, and other things like that. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. You may, if you're watching this, experience the too low, and that often happens for some of the same reasons, but too low might mean you feel very low energy, fatigued, you don't have the motivation to go out and do anything. You may experience depression, and you may even feel physically immobile for these reasons. If any of these symptoms sound familiar to you, hit that like button below and let me know that you relate to what we're talking about now. So since the nervous system is there to put us in a state of balance and homeostasis, then we often have a role in helping regulate our nervous system. So for example, we can get too high energy, and in that case, we need to physically do activities or modalities that will bring us back down. All of that is taking care of ourselves. Likewise, if we're too low, we need to do something to stimulate our nervous system. Maybe we need to go out and exercise, get out of the house, take a shower, something like that. The nervous system gets dysregulated because it feels that it is in a state of threat. It's doing its job that way. It's ready because it thinks that there's going to be a threat around the corner. And that's how it's supposed to work. It does that to keep us alive. The problem is when we get stuck in that state. And lots of things cause us to get stuck in that state, but one of those things is trauma. So I have a video on healing trauma that I will link in the box below if that interests you. And even if you feel like you haven't experienced trauma and you're like, oh, well, I haven't experienced any trauma, go ahead and check out that video anyway, because there are lots of things that were traumatic to our nervous system in the past that we may not have realized at the time consciously, and that helped put our system in a state of emergency. We've got to be ready for emergencies. So just one example of that is if you grew up in a very emotionally chaotic environment. So say you grew up in a home where there were crises all the time, there were issues that needed to be solved. Many of them may have even been adult issues that you as a child did not have any business solving, but you may have been involved in solving them. I don't know what that might be in your family, but if you felt like there were constant problems, or even that the adults in your life were highly unpredictable in how they might be that way, then your nervous system got in a state of needing to solve problems. There's a problem that might impact my survival. And the reason it might impact your survival is because you know, and your nervous system knows as a child, that you rely on these parents, these adults, to keep you alive. You cannot survive without them. So if you were in a state of constantly responding to emergencies or having to deal with super adult situations, then that can put you in a stuck state of elevated nervous system response. So that's where your body constantly thinks there's something to fix, constantly thinks that there's something that needs to be responded to, or else your survival is at risk. So something like that can keep us in that elevated state, kind of keep that lever stuck up. And if we didn't realize that was the case, then we may never have had the opportunity to go back to our nervous system and comfort ourselves and say, hey, I know that we went through this difficult time together, but everything is okay now. I don't need you to help keep me alive in this way, because everything is okay. If we've spent a lot of time in our lives in this anxiety, energy kind of vibe, then our body has not received the message that everything is okay, and we can let down our guard. We are safe now. We might have needed those coping mechanisms in order to survive up to this point, but we don't need to be in that elevated survival mode in order to get through today. Another source of getting stuck, especially in this elevated level of energy, is when we go through something and we are not able to go through our trauma processing system. When our body experiences trauma, maybe it's a car accident or a death in the family, if we don't process the emotions in our body, we don't go through that grieving process, or we don't come to terms with what actually happened, then our body is stuck because it's waiting to discharge that energy, but we never give it the chance to do that. Maybe because we don't know that we're supposed to. So it's like taking in a big breath and never letting it out. We need to revisit this experience from our past and really acknowledge that this happened, and then experience the physical release that comes from that. The way that we discharge that energy is through our bodies. So it can be through crying, it may be through shaking, it may be through laughing, or some other visceral physical response. So now I want to talk about some ways that we can get regulated, and I am going to focus primarily on when you're stuck in that high energy zone. So I want to explain my experience with this, how it feels for me, and what I do to help me regulate my emotions consciously. One other thing I want to add is that often we are not taught to regulate our emotions and our nervous system consciously, which is that when we're experiencing high levels of anxiety, we may not have been taught how to discharge that, what to do. So it's important now, wherever you are in your life watching this video, that all of us learn, hey, this is what my body needs right now. And when I give that to my body, I give my body the best chance to stay in this level of balance and homeostasis, because, oh, my body's too high energy, let me do something to bring it down. Or my nervous system's too low energy, let me do this thing to bring it back up to balance. So for me, I get into a high energy zone, and many times at first it feels good. Of course, it feels good to have energy, to be productive, to be doing things, accomplishing things. But for me, it kind of feels like a car in acceleration. So the car is going faster and faster and faster. And at first I like it. I'm like, it's accelerating. We are going places. We got things to do. Nothing can stop me. It's a bright sunny day on the open road. But if I don't keep that regulated, if I don't say, okay, hold up, Anna, just keep an eye, make sure you're not going too fast here, then I will get too fast. And so that's what sometimes happens, is I'll go faster, faster, faster because it feels good. And then before I know it, I'm going too fast. I'm accelerating and it feels almost like the car is out of my control. It starts to feel scary. That's when I may start having feelings of anxiety. I may start having trouble breathing, taking shallow breaths, or feeling like I'm not able to catch my breath. Feeling like I've got too many plates spinning at one time and I can no longer keep them all spinning. And I'm panicked because maybe some of the plates are gonna fall. This may be legitimately, and it often is, legitimately having too many things going on in my life. So legitimately just having too many plates spinning. But it could also just mean having too many thoughts going at once, feeling like mentally I have to manage too many things at one time. And it's because I don't naturally know how to temper things, keep things balanced and regulated. So they go up and up and up and up and up. And before I know it, it's too much. Here's what I've learned to do in this situation to help bring me back to homeostasis. One, I usually clear my calendar or clear my obligations. So more often than not, I have got too many things on my plate and I can't even think straight because I'm trying to keep too many balls in the air, too many plates spinning. So the first thing I need to do is take some stuff off my plate, whatever that might look like. Maybe some plans I have, I might cancel them or postpone them. This project I was gonna work on, maybe I'm gonna put that off because I need to be less stimulated tonight, or I need to be less stimulated this week. So I remove as much stimulation as I can. Then the next thing to do, and I would recommend this for you, create a list of varied, diverse activities that bring you back down to homeostasis. And I recommend diverse things because some things are accessible in some situations and some are not. For example, if my only mechanism for bringing myself to balance is taking a hot bath, well, I can't do that when I'm at work. So what's something small that I could do at work? What's something that when I have a lot of time, something when I don't have that much time, something I can do when I'm around other people and I can't get away from that situation, or when I'm not around other people and I have more time alone. So here are some of the things that are on my list, and I would love to hear in the comments below some of the things that help you, and maybe I'll want to add those to my list as well. Taking as many things off my plate as possible is usually my first step, because typically when I'm in this elevated energetic state, I can't even think straight until I have my plate clear. Other things on my list: take a hot bath. That's always very relaxing for me. Aromatherapy, using essential oils. Meditation and deep breathing are big ones for me. Often when we get in this situation, we feel like we don't have time for these things, but I can assure you that when you're in this elevated state, you are not as much use to anyone as you think you are. You are not helping anyone by bringing that frantic energy to the project or to the family or to your kids. You have got to be in a state where you're balanced yourself in order to be useful to anyone else. The first person you need to take care of in this situation is you. So take some time, take a bath, use some oils, just take a break as well. Even if you don't have that much time, excuse yourself and take a moment by yourself. If you're in a work meeting or you're at work, take a break. Go outside and take a walk if you can. Taking a walk in nature is such a good way to take a break and to regulate your nervous system. Just going into the bathroom, taking some deep breaths, doing a little meditation, focusing on your breath. So focus on your breathing in and out. Another thing that I do is focus on one thing at a time. What's the one thing that you can apply your energy and attention to right now? Maybe it's just this one work project. This works really well when you're at work, but also outside of work. What's the one thing you want to accomplish today? Focus on that one thing, because when there's too many things, it's very easy to get flustered and start to feel anxious. And then probably the most important thing that has helped me with regulation is surrendering to my higher power. When I feel like it's up to me to take care of everything, that is a surefire way for me to get into survival mode of, okay, I got this. We're going to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I can handle it. And another sign I'm in this zone is I'm Wonder Woman. I am Superwoman. I can do it all. Nothing's stopping me. I have the will for it. I can do it. But you can't though, because our bodies have a limit. Your mind may have all the energy to stay up all night and do everything, but we are humans and there's a limit to what we can do. And trusting my higher power to take care of my life, surrendering my life to the universe, to a power that's greater than me, has been one of the most effective ways for me to come back to balance. Because when I trust these problems to my higher power, all I have to do is just be in the present moment and trust that everything is going to work out and be okay. And the last thing I recommend is start to identify your patterns. What do you notice about what happens when you start to get really elevated? Kind of like me, I feel like I'm in a car that's going fast, and in the beginning it feels good. And I've started with some time and trial and error, I've started to be able to identify when I'm in that zone, even when I'm in the part that feels good. I'm like, I notice it as almost like a red flag. I'm like, oh, hold on, be careful. You don't want to get dysregulated. You don't want to get too high energy. Let's take it down. Let's take a break. Let's do fewer things right at this moment. Let's focus on just this one thing. Let's take some things off the to-do list today. So start to notice, maybe even make a written list. What are the things for you that gets you dysregulated? The things that you identify are signs and symptoms that you are about to feel out of control. And when you start to see those signs, you can start to consciously bring yourself back into balance by trusting that things are taken care of, by taking things off your plate, by any of these recommended actions that I've outlined here. Let me know in the comments below what helps you when you are getting out of balance to come back into balance. And I've made a video called How to Find Inner Peace and Calm, and it goes hand in hand with what we're talking about here. I think you'll love the tips in that video. I will see you there.